A few months ago on Parental Guidance, Channel 9's hit TV show, I made a comment that seems to have captured a lot of people's imagination and really, I don't know, it feels really good when as a parent you feel like you can connect with and even share important things with your kids. So I shared on Parental Guidance that every Sunday, or most Sundays in our family, we sit down with the kids for 15 minutes or thereabouts and have tricky talks. We talk about tough conversations, the things that the things that kids might struggle with, so that we can help them to have a dry run. They can have a bit of a practice as they work out how to navigate life. Today, our tricky question from one of our Happy Families podcast listeners is about how to have these conversations with your kids, especially when the kids are little. That's coming up. Stay with us. Hello, welcome to the Happy Families podcast, real parenting solutions every single day on Australia's most downloaded parenting podcast. We are Justin and Kylie Coulson. Every Tuesday on the pod, we give you a chance to ask your tricky questions, whatever it is that you would like to know about. happyfamilies.com.au. Scroll down to submit your tricky question about discipline or screens or family life generally, relationships, whatever it is. Ask us literally anything and we'll talk. We love to talk about stuff. Happyfamilies.com.au. Just scroll down to where it says podcasts. Super simple system. You literally press the record button and start talking. Or you can email us, podcasts@happyfamilies.com.au, podcasts with an S at happyfamilies.com.au. Send us a voice note and we'll answer your question there. Kylie, today we've got a question from Alana, and this is what she wanted to know.
My name's Alana from the Gold Coast. Just wondering if you could help us out with some suggestions for your tough questions to ask with our children. Want to incorporate what you've talked about by talking about tough questions, but just wondering where to start and some examples of those questions. We've got two girls aged 5 and 7. Thanks.
Okay, Alana, we really appreciate that you want to have these discussions with your kids. Kylie, we were not having these conversations with our 5 and 7-year-olds because we just weren't onto it that way. I mean, I guess in a kind of a way we were, but not the way that we talk about it here on the podcast and in my books and things.
Well, the reality is with family life, everything morphs with time, with age, with experience. And so while we weren't having tricky conversations, we've always had a framework around how we spend time with our children in intentional instruction.
Yeah, so the background of that is we've always been open about this. We have a church background and we go to church most Sundays. And our religious organisation, about 100 and something years ago now, instituted this thing that they called Family Home Evening. And the idea of Family Home Evening was parents are the primary socialiser of their kids. Parents are responsible for moral instruction and training for their kids. And so they said one night a week, we want parents, whether you're on your own or whether you've got mum and dad both available, we want parents to sit down with their kids, have some activities, have some fun, have some laughter, have a treat, and do some, we would have called it gospel instruction, right? Do some conversation around questions that have moral or faith implications and teach the kids the stuff that you really think that they need to know. And we've just allowed that to morph over time. We still do the religious instruction, but we don't talk about that on the podcast so much. Instead, these tough talks, while sometimes they have a religious foundation, quite often the stuff that our kids are dealing with is it's stuff that kids are dealing with.
And the conversations get trickier as they get older.
Yeah, they do.
And the reason they're tricky is because they're the conversations that usually make us squirm a little bit. It's hard enough having a conversation about sex with another adult, but then you're having it with your 12-year-old daughter or your 14-year-old son. Those kinds of conversations leave us feeling a little bit, squirmish.
Sometimes, yeah. And so let's get into this a little bit more. The first thing that I would say, especially if you've got younger kids, let's say 5, 6, 7, 8 years of age, something like that, I don't think that well, I was going to say you don't need to have them that often, but I reckon I'm changing my mind. You do. You want to have them every week to establish the pattern.
That's exactly right.
And let the kids know that there is no topic that's out of bounds. There's no topic that you can't bring up. We're really happy to talk about anything at all.
And if this is something that's new and you have young children, then I'd have crazy conversations with them. I'd have, would you rather conversations where you're kind of just stretching their thought process, their curiosity, and kind of helping them to recognize that nothing's off limits, that we can have these conversations and have fun with them. Like, they don't have to be scared, or it doesn't actually have to feel like a tricky question, because they're so used to having kind of curly whirly questions, talked about at the dinner table.
In my book, Relationship Rules, and yes, this is a blatant plug for the book, because part 2 of the book is what are some things that you can talk about. And I just want to run through a couple of these because I think they're really, really instructive, that highlights that it doesn't always have to be a tough or a tricky conversation or talk. It can be just a conversation that's relationship building. So, listen to what they're looking forward to. You might listen to what they're grateful for. You could listen to what made them happy today. You could learn about the kind of business they'd love to start. You could listen to answers to hypotheticals that you invent. And here are 3 that I've thrown into the book just for fun. You find a book and begin to read only to discover that it is your life. You get to the point that you are at now. Do you turn the page knowing that you will not be able to change the events to come? Second one, would you rather get uglier or dumber? I thought that was funny. You're not laughing. Or you could reverse it. Would you rather get more attractive or smarter? You're thinking about your answer, aren't you?
No, I'm thinking about the question Emily actually just asked me the other day. Emily's 11.
Yeah.
And she asked me if I would rather have all my teeth pulled or all my fingernails pulled.
Okay. I mean,
what's your answer?
What's my answer? What did you say?
Oh, I'd go my fingernails.
I'd rather lose my fingernails. Yeah, for sure. What would you do if you discovered you only had 24 hours to live?
And let's face it, Alana, we're probably making this a little bit harder on ourselves than we need to. We're having conversations with our kids all the time, and I'm sure that your kids are no different to any other kids. They're asking you tricky questions all the time.
Yeah, they bring stuff up. and so, I mean, the one that I always talk about in my presentations and things is the day that our 14-year-old daughter said, "Dad, what's an STI?" And I said, "Hey, let's talk about that on Sunday," because we've got 2 minutes in the car where I can give you a short and generally unhelpful answer, or we've got 15 minutes on Sunday where we all come together and we discuss it. Now, obviously, you're not going to have that conversation with your 5 to 7-year-old, but your 5 to 7-year-old is unlikely to say, "Hey, Mum, what's an STI?" So
she'll ask you something else.
There'll be something that will come up. Yeah. So after the break, what I want to do is just highlight a bunch of topics that you could discuss, and that will lead to a whole bunch more. And the more you do it, the more you start noticing topics. That's next. The topics to talk to your 5 to 7 or 5 to 10-year-olds about when it comes to tough talks and tricky conversations. On the Happy Families podcast today, we're talking about how to have tough talks and tricky conversations with younger kids. What discussions are up for conversation? Which things do you want to leave alone? Kylie, here's my list. I'm going to work through it, and you tell me if there's anything that you would add. I thought, first off, friendship stuff. I mean, kids come home every day talking about something that happened in a friendship. Is it good? Is it bad? What would you do differently? In fact, relationships generally.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that as you were talking about relationships and the idea that our kids often come home and tell us about things that they saw on the playground that aren't even related to their friends.
Right.
They've seen something happen. They've seen a kid be bullied, or they've seen, someone being mistreated, and they're trying to understand the world.
Yeah. How should we live? How do we respond to this? What's the right thing to do here? What's the wrong thing to do here? What are you seeing happening? What are other people saying? Like these conversations really do take on an explore, explain, empower format where you say,
and what would you do if it was you?
Yeah.
Or what would you do if you were in the same group? Or
you just want to know what their perspective is all the way through, with you adding a little bit of guidance or asking permission. Hey, I've got an idea. Do you mind if I share that with you? What do you think about this? That's kind of where we're going. So first on my list is friendships, bullying, all sorts of relationship stuff. You might even bring in siblings or grandparents. Anything that has to do with relationships, you're going to get a 15-minute conversation without trying.
I can't count how many times we might have had conversations around kindness,
right,
and
right,
unconditional love,
yeah.
And
so again, my relationship rules books. There are 85 relationship rules. You could literally just do a different rule every week, and that would give your kids a PhD in how to have healthy relationships. It would be great as a family discussion. We should do that ourselves, Kylie. Now that I think about it, the next one: screens. What's happening on screens? What's everyone doing on screens? You can talk about gaming. You can talk about social media. I mean, hopefully not with 5 to 7-year-olds, but kids are on screens. They're seeing stuff, whether it's on YouTube or whether it's on a social media platform. I don't know why we call it social media anymore. Did you know that Facebook recently had to front up to court because of, well, they're always in court, and they're arguing now that they're not a social media company because more than 80%, in fact, as much as 90% of content that occurs on Facebook is people who don't know each other viewing or sharing content with other people that they don't know. So less than sort of 10 to 15% of what happens on Facebook now, on Meta platforms, is actually people who know each other talking to one another. I thought that was an astonishing thing. Anyway, screens, I reckon body safety would be something that you could talk about, staying safe.
I was just thinking about your screens conversation, and I think it would actually be really curious to ask your 5 and 7-year-old what they notice when they're in a room with people.
Yeah, including you.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little self-assessment. Like I said, body safety, there's so many things that you can talk about in terms of staying safe in different situations and how do you navigate that and what to do when you're at the park, or are there tricky adults who ask for kids' help? What's the deal there? I've also made some notes that you can have conversations about honesty. You can have conversations about integrity. You can have conversations about what big kids do. You can have conversations about, I mean, even in grade 5, there's boyfriend and girlfriend stuff. If they're older, you start to have longer, more detailed conversation. If they're younger, you have shorter discussions, and you're just exploring their perspective, explaining a couple of things, and then getting them to come up with their own ideas. We need to wrap it up. That's kind of everything that I had on my list to get you started, Alana. Kylie, you're looking at me longingly like you want to add one more thing.
I remember one of the most trickiest conversations we ever had with our children was not long after you published your first book, What Your Child Needs From You. And you had a set of questions in there, or statements, that you could answer kind of mentally on your own, but from your child's perspective.
Yeah. Would my child say yes or no to this question?
And I read it and I was like, I don't want to guess what they'd say. I want to know what they'd say.
So we had our very first parent performance appraisal where the kids literally told us what's really going on.
They were some of the trickiest conversations I've ever had with them. 3-year-olds telling me the things that I wasn't quite getting right, but in such a loving way and with so much forgiveness and unconditional love. But you want to start a conversation that's going to stretch everybody. Ask your kids if they feel like you love them, and how do they know that you love them. Ask them if we remember things that are important to them, and can they tell you of a time where you've done that. Things about whether or not they feel like we're interested in them and the things that they're doing.
What page number is it on?
It's on page 8.
Okay, well, while I'm shamelessly plugging relationship rules, let's also shamelessly plug What Your Child Needs From You. They're both available at happyfamilies.com.au, and they will create really, really meaningful and important conversations with the kids.
It was the first time we'd had a pretty big uppercut from our kids. They really beautifully told and worded, but just showed us where we were lacking.
Alana, we really, really hope that this has been a helpful conversation to get those tricky talks going with you and your kids. Thanks so much for submitting your question. If you would like to submit a tricky question, just go to happyfamilies.com.au, click the button, start talking, and we will get your voice message. Otherwise, send us a voice note to podcasts@happyfamilies.com.au. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media. Mim Hammonds provides research and other support. And if you think your family could be happier from this conversation, please share the chat with them, but also with other people that you think might benefit from it. When you share the pod, well, more people get to hear it and we get to help more families, which is what our currency is. If you would like more information and resources to help your family be happier, visit us at happyfamilies.com.au.